Okay. Hello, everybody. So the first thing I'd like is a volunteer. Is anybody here open to all volunteering for my speech? Alec.
Okay, what do I have to do?
All right. So the first thing I want you to do is just stand right here and put one leg up like this. Okay. Now keep it like that. And here I have a makeshift jump rope, just because I can find one at home, and so I made one out of a few pieces of rope. And so here,
Okay.
and now I want you to try jump roping.
Oh, rough. Here we go. Oh, that didn't work. Really bad. Okay, I can do this. I'm not a complete. Let's go.
All right.
It's hard.
Thank you for the demonstration. All right. As you can see, Alec had quite a lot of trouble just trying to jump rope with one leg. And this may be the case for about 2 million people all around the world, because those 2 million people live without limbs. However, this is not the case, because biomedical engineers have produced prosthetic limbs that are able to make up for these handicaps. And so they're able to jump rope, they're able to dance, they're able to walk. You've all seen those videos where people are racing and they all have prosthetic limbs. It is because of the work of biomedical engineers. Hi, my name is Ellie, and this year I'm studying biomedical engineering in hopes of becoming one of those biomedical engineers who change the lives of those around the world. And so, to begin, as I mentioned, prosthetics is a large part of biomedical engineering. And so one of the most recent developments of prosthetics is the myoelectric prosthetic. The myoelectric prosthetic is essentially where you control the prosthetic with your mind. And so in order to do this, there is a bunch of steps that a prosthetic, that a biomedical engineer has to go through. And so the first step is having to implement a microelectrode into the brain. And so this microelectrode picks up the brain signals and it analyzes it for firings. And these firings are used used with algorithms and decoding, which essentially translate all into the one bending of a knee. So prosthetics have changed the lives of a bunch of amputees, whether they're congenital and non-congenital. But that's not all that biomedical engineering does. Biomedical engineering also consists of a large portion called neural interface systems. And so neural interface systems are essentially, as the name states, you're allowed to interact with the brain. And so this year I've done a lot of studying on neural interface systems. And so there are two main sections. So the first section is called the closed loop control, and the second section is called the open loop prediction. And so open loop prediction is exactly what myoelectric prosthetics are, because they predict the movement of the brain and of the body. And so now I'm going to give you an example of closed loop control. Closed loop control is the treatment of one of the disorders that many of you are familiar with, Parkinson's. And so Parkinson's is something that affects about 2 million people in the US. And that affects them because they're unable to control their movement, and they end up shaking like this. And so this is uncontrollable because even medications, a bunch of medications, they don't even help the patients of Parkinson's. And so what happens now? Well, there's been an innovation called deep brain stimulation. And so DBS is essentially where they insert a lead extension and neurostimulator into the person, and this helps them control their movement. They're able to regain their control just like everybody else. And so, as I mentioned, there are three main sections: lead, extension, and neurostimulator. The lead is the part that's actually implanted into the brain, and so this is the part that picks up on neural signals. The extension is the part that leads from the lead to the neurostimulator. And the neurostimulator is actually the whole battery pack and the whole generator of the whole entire system. And so the neurostimulator essentially generates neurosignals in order to block out these abnormal signals which are given by the Parkinson's patient's brain, and that is what causes the uncontrollable shaking. So this next thing that I'm going to talk about is also another closed loop control. However, it is one that I'm sure many of you are unaware of, and it also hits something very personal to me. So I want you to imagine this. You've just drove home and you're sitting down at your desk, you're about to start your homework, and all of a sudden you feel this shooting pain through your eye. And it's as if someone has just shot you. What does that feel like? That feels like cluster headaches. This is something my mom has been experiencing ever since the tender age of 16. It happens about two times a day and about 2 hours at a time for about a month. And it comes through episodes. And about 2 of 100,000 people are affected by cluster headaches. These cluster headaches have gained 2 names: the worst pain known to medicine and suicide headaches. Why? Because there's a long history of patients who have committed suicide because of this pain that cluster headaches bring. However, with the recent technology by ATI, there has been a solution. This solution is also similar to the DBS in Parkinson's. However, it is produced for cluster headaches. And so essentially there is also 2 parts to it. And so the first part is implanted into the cheek of the migraine of the cluster headache patient, and the second part is a remote control. This remote control essentially does just like the neurostimulator in the DBS does. It sends signals that inhibit the cluster headache brain to it inhibits the cluster headache brains because this allows for normal function. The next thing I'm going to talk about is computational modeling, and this is because for the past three examples I've talked a lot about the brain, but computational modeling is something that affects not only brain patients, but it also affects both heart patients, and essentially computational modeling is all around the spectrum. And so I met with a professor at UTD called Dr. Clark Meyer, and he specializes in computational modeling. And so in order for computational modeling to work, you have to create a CAD model, and this is implemented into the FEA software. This software is able to stimulate what would happen to the device if it was put into the real world. And so essentially, Dr. Meyer specialized in stents, and if you don't know, stents are essentially what treats atherosclerosis, which is the buildup of plaque in arteries. And so these stents are often broken down during atherosclerosis because although they are supposed to be there to support the arteries, they don't, because they collapse because of all the stress that's put on them. This computational modeling allows for the stents to ensure that they will actually function. And so these stents are essentially put in through a balloon catheter, and these balloon catheters are plugged into a clogged artery. And this stent expands, and through this the stent stays in place and is able to allow blood to flow. This is an issue affecting many around the world because a lot of people have atherosclerosis. It's not an uncommon disease. Yet when they implement the stents, it doesn't actually work. And that is the real issue here. And so what Dr. Clark Meyer does is he actually allows these stents to ensure that these stents will work. And so the field of biomedical engineering sounds amazing. So you can keep a Parkinson's patient from shaking. You can allow an amputee to have a working limb, but it is a lot of work, and there is no easy path to the career in biomedical engineering, which leads me to this. A quote by Theodore Roosevelt, "Far and away, the best prize that life has to offer is the chance to work hard at work worth doing." To me, biomedical engineering is the optimal solution to a career. Why? Because it is the work worth doing. Every day you can get up and you can say that you will change the lives of many around the world. Because as I mentioned, it can cure the Parkinson's patient from shaking, but it's not just one Parkinson's patient, it's those all around the world. So you're influencing not just the people around you and your patients, but the people who are using your technology. Thank you.